Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Our mission here is, well, it's simple. We take this absolute fire hose of information that's just flooding the AI landscape.
It never stops.
It never stops. And we distill it down into the high-octane insights, the practical knowledge that you actually need to be ahead of the curve. We've cracked open a recent, pretty comprehensive news digest from right near the end of 2025, and the developments we're tracking, they don't feel like minor software updates.
Oh, not at all. They feel absolutely foundational.
Exactly.
That's right. I mean, the pace of change continues to just defy expectations. And what really stood out in this material were 5 core areas that, they really illustrate how quickly this sector is maturing and integrating into the real world.
Okay.
Our goal for this deep dive is to move beyond the headlines and really extract the crucial, captivating nuggets of the mechanism and the implication that define these breakthroughs.
It's a huge scope. We're covering everything from the deep research labs, where these new cognitive models are born, all the way to the global regulatory forums debating their power, and then finally down to tangible, life-changing applications.
Right.
We're going to trace that path, starting with this massive shift toward true multimodal AI, then shifting immediately to the necessary ethical frameworks, and then looking at the impact across autonomous vehicles, truly revolutionary healthcare tools, and even the evolving role of creativity.
The pattern we're tracking is one of cross-pollination. These advances, they're no longer isolated technical feats. They are rapidly defining our social, our industrial, and our cultural realities. And, understanding the technology now requires understanding its downstream effects on society. That's exactly what we're going to get into today.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
Let's start right at the beginning. The research breakthrough that really sets the stage for everything else in this digest.
Yeah.
OpenAI has unveiled what they're calling GPT-4 Vision. Now, we've all lived through the era of large language models, the LLMs, where you put in text, you get text out. But this vision model, it seems like a cognitive leap. It's pushing past traditional language processing entirely.
It's more than a leap. It's a recalibration of what an advanced AI model even is. For years, the gold standard was performance on a single modality text, or images, or sound.
Siloed.
Completely siloed. GPT-4 Vision fundamentally integrates these, signaling a huge shift into true, seamless, multimodal AI. And this isn't just, stacking 3 different APIs on top of each other.
Right, it's not a pipeline.
Exactly. It's shared intelligence across those domains, natively.
And for you listening, you hear the term multimodal all the time, but you might not grasp the specific mechanism here. What's the clear distinction? I mean, if an AI can handle text and images, haven't models been doing that for a little while?
They have, but usually in a very constrained way. Historically, if you fed a model an image and asked a question, it had a visual recognition module that translated the visual stuff into a text description. And then a language model took that description and gave you an answer. It was a chained pipeline.
Step 1, then step 2.
Exactly. Multimodal means the model can process, interpret, and generate content across 3 specific domains, text, images, and audio, simultaneously and natively, right within its core architecture. The latent space where the AI holds its understanding is unified across all 3.
That concept of a unified latent space, that's the key, isn't it? The integrated perception. It means the model isn't just translating a picture into words and then acting on the words.
No.
It's perceiving the visual meaning directly alongside the textual meaning.
That's it. And that allows for this fluid, very human-like interaction that the developers are aiming for. The model can maintain conceptual coherence across all these different sensory inputs, and the source material, it gives a really powerful, concrete example that shows this shift beautifully.
They use the example of a painting, right?
Yes. So picture this interaction. You upload a high-res image of a painting, let's say a late Impressionist work. You ask the AI to describe the brushwork and the color palette. That's visual input, text output. Pretty standard stuff. Then you immediately follow up and ask it to explain the historical context, the artist's life, what led to that specific style. That demands deep textual analysis, historical knowledge.
But here's the part that is it's astonishing. The final step.
The final step is the generation, asking the AI to compose a short piece of instrumental music inspired by the painting.
Wow.
To do that, the model has to conceptually map the visual mood, the light, the color, the implied movement onto musical attributes. Things like key, tempo, harmony. It requires cross-sensory synthesis, not just sequential processing. It's using visual data to inform audio creativity.
That's fascinating, but let me just push back on that seamless description for a second. If the AI is juggling this massive cognitive load, interpreting a painting's symbolism, recalling history, and then translating emotion into musical scales, doesn't that complexity just drastically increase the chance of, hallucination or misalignment?
That is a very, very necessary challenge to raise.
Are the sources addressing that, the consistency challenge?
They are, and while the goal is seamlessness, the source implies that the initial breakthrough is the capacity for integration, not necessarily flawless execution right out of the gate.
Okay, so it's a proof of concept.
In a way, but the improved architecture is designed specifically to mitigate that cross-modal confusion. The ability to audit this unified latent space, which is, it's a super complex, high-dimensional mathematical map, is getting better. So if the AI hallucinates a fact, or if the music doesn't match the painting's mood, the integrated nature theoretically makes it easier to trace the error back to the source.
So it's more auditable.
Exactly. The overall commitment is to stability, which is essential if this is going to be a reliable tool.
Assuming they get that stability right, the core takeaway is clear. This model sets a new baseline for how we interact with these systems. It promises to enrich our digital experience because the AI is mirroring a more holistic, more human way of processing the world.
That's it. We don't experience the world in siloed streams. We see, hear, and process all at once.
Right. And because of this fundamental shift, the real-world implications promised by this integration are vast. The sources highlight 3 immediate sectors that stand to be completely reshaped by GPT-4 Vision.
Which are?
Education, entertainment, and I think critically, accessibility.
Let's start with accessibility because that is often where you feel the most profound and immediate social impact. You mentioned accessibility for visually impaired individuals. How does multimodal AI move the needle here beyond just simple image recognition?
Okay, so simple recognition might tell a visually impaired user this is a bar graph of quarterly sales.
Basic.
Very basic. Multimodal goes so much deeper. Imagine the person holding their phone up to a complex scientific diagram, say, a detailed fluid dynamics schematic.
Okay, something very dense with information.
Right. The AI can look at the diagram, understand the spatial relationships of the parts, the visual flow. You can read the text labels. And then it can convert that complex integrated understanding into a layered descriptive audio output.
So it's not just describing, it's explaining. It's explaining. And crucially, it could even generate a haptic signal that represents the data structure, a vibration pattern that lets the user feel the complexity of that schematic.
Wow. It turns raw sensory data into deeply understood, multi-sensory meaning. That is a transformative increase in independence and comprehension.
And that ties directly into education. Imagine a personalized curriculum tailored by a multimodal AI. A student struggling with, say, a geometry concept could upload their notes.
That's the text.
A confusing diagram from their textbook.
The image.
And maybe even a recording of the lecture they missed.
And the audio.
The AI processes all 3 inputs at once, identifies the exact point of confusion, and then generates the optimal response. Maybe it's a modified diagram with new labels, an explanatory text paragraph, and a simple audio mnemonic to help them remember.
Learning becomes incredibly personalized. It can cater to every learning style simultaneously, visual, auditory, you name it. It lets students engage with materials so much more deeply.
And the educator gets invaluable real-time feedback on where learning is breaking down. It's not just a tool for the student, it's a revolutionary assistant for curriculum design, letting teachers prototype lessons that just seamlessly cross these sensory boundaries.
And finally, entertainment. This is where the creative industries are probably getting very excited.
Oh, for sure. How does GPT-4 Vision streamline the process of creation there?
Yeah.
In entertainment, the AI truly becomes an active creative partner. It accelerates the prototyping stage dramatically. Think about pre-visualization for a film or a video game.
A storyboarding phase.
Exactly. A director could feed the AI a specific scene from the screenplay, that's the text, a collage of concept art or a mood board, those are the images detailing costume, lighting, environment,
Right.
and maybe even a desired emotional tone, just described in an audio narration. The AI could then instantly generate conceptual art, bespoke soundscapes, or even short, rough-cut animations that align perfectly across all 3 inputs.
The speed of iteration is just insane. It collapses the time between a concept and a tangible prototype, letting artists fail faster and zero in on the exact vision they want without a massive upfront investment.
It streamlines creation, yes, and it also democratizes it. Suddenly, these conceptualization tools that required huge studio budgets are accessible to independent creators, all because the AI can handle that conceptual link across vision, language, and sound.
The bottom line here is that GPT-4 Vision is a paradigm shift.
Absolutely. Integrated multimodal capability is now the new baseline for advanced AI interaction.
With that kind of revolutionary power, the capacity to seamlessly generate and interpret reality across 3 sensory modes comes immediate, unavoidable responsibility.
Yeah.
And the digest transitions immediately from the technical breakthrough to the necessary ethical framework.
You absolutely cannot discuss a breakthrough like this without addressing the guardrails. I mean, a model that can generate photorealistic images, pair them with context-appropriate audio and persuasive text.
It can influence anything: media, public perception.
Even evidence in legal proceedings. This capability immediately puts the ethical dimensions under the highest scrutiny.
And the source notes, this scrutiny took place at a very specific, high-level venue, the Global AI Ethics Forum. So this wasn't some closed-door meeting. This was the global community responding in real time.
Precisely. And the central theme emerging from the forum was the urgent need for a balanced approach. The mandate is dual. You have to maximize the clear benefits we just talked about, the huge improvements in accessibility and education, while rigorously minimizing the risks.
And those risks are amplified in multimodal systems, aren't they?
They're amplified. We're talking everything from highly convincing misinformation and deepfakes across both visual and audio to ingrained algorithmic bias that affects diverse sensory inputs.
It's no longer enough to just look for bias in text. You now have to check for visual bias, audio bias, and how they all interact with each other.
Exactly.
So let's drill down into the 2 most critical needs that the experts emphasized during that panel.
The first, which is just vital for maintaining public trust, is the necessity for radical transparency in these algorithms.
But what does transparency even mean for a multimodal AI?
That's the key question. If a model generates this complex output across text, image, and audio, we can't just accept its conclusion. Users, regulators, auditors, they need to understand how the AI arrived at that conclusion.
So we need to move past just knowing what data it trained on to understanding the pathway of its decision.
That's it exactly. When we talk about transparency here, we're talking about the concept of mode attribution.
Mode attribution.
Right. If GPT-4 Vision generates a specific piece of music, we need to be able to show which visual feature in the painting, was it the aggressive brushwork, the warm color palette, directly influence that specific structure in the audio output. Auditing the decision-making is exponentially harder when you're blending 3 different representations.
So the forum was pushing for explainability within that complex, latent space.
Yes, because otherwise these systems just become unmanageable black boxes of creative and interpretive power.
That makes perfect sense. If a model is going to influence major societal decisions, you need full accountability. Now, what was the second critical need that the experts brought up?
The second point focused on equitable access to AI technologies, with a specific, highlighted emphasis on underserved communities. This is where the aspirational really meets the practical.
Why is equitable access the central hinge of the ethical debate right now?
Because if these multimodal technologies are truly revolutionary, if they can democratize education, provide life-changing accessibility tools, detect disease earlier than human doctors, then their limited availability, whether it's due to cost or infrastructure, directly risks making existing social and economic inequities even worse.
So if the best tools for the visually impaired are locked behind an expensive paywall, the social divide just gets wider.
Dramatically wider. If a new class of cognitive tools emerges, access isn't just a market issue, it becomes a fundamental societal equity issue.
But saying democratize access is easy. What practical mechanisms did the experts actually propose to get there?
The forum discussed several concrete paths. One key proposal focused on mandatory public-private partnerships.
Okay.
So companies like OpenAI would be required to license the core accessibility layers of their models at minimal or zero cost to government-funded educational and health institutions, especially those serving low-income or rural populations around the globe.
I see.
Another mechanism they debated was creating internationally funded repositories of open-source multimodal models, specifically for things like healthcare diagnostics and education, to ensure that the Global South isn't just reliant on the pricing structures of Silicon Valley.
So the idea is that the utility of these tools is so high that they stop being mere consumer products and become more like public infrastructure.
Precisely. The ethical perspective is that if the model sets a new standard for human augmentation, then our societal equity expectations have to rise to meet that standard. And this speed moving immediately from breakthrough to an international focused debate on accountability and access, that's a defining characteristic of the current AI climate.
Ethical consideration has to be baked in from the beginning. It can't be a patch you apply years after deployment.
Not anymore. It has to be a foundational requirement.
It's a powerful transition.
Yeah.
We go from the theoretical power created in the lab to the immediate responsibility debated at the global forum.
And that speed, as I said, it's just characteristic of where we are now. The breakthroughs and the ethical debates are happening almost at the same time.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Let's pivot now from that foundational research and ethics to a very specific, high-stakes industrial application. Autonomous driving.
Right.
The automotive sector is where AI's capability is most directly tested against the messy, unpredictable reality of the physical world. And the digest spotlights a major update from Tesla, specifically on its full self-driving, or FSD, software. It's described as a groundbreaking update.
This is critical because it represents a maturation in how AI handles real-time risk assessment in these dynamic, unpredictable environments. FSD systems have largely conquered highway cruising.
The easy part, relatively speaking.
Right. But complex urban driving unprotected turns, dealing with irrational human drivers, navigating poorly marked construction, that has always been the true hurdle.
So what's the core technological enhancement here that justifies that groundbreaking label? What's actually different under the hood in this latest version?
The key mechanism, as detailed in the source, is the integration of significantly enhanced neural networks. For, a knowledgeable audience, this suggests a move away from purely localized frame-by-frame processing.
Seeing snapshots.
Yes, to architectures that are likely involving temporal transformers, which are designed for sequence modeling. It means the car is not just seeing a snapshot of the current moment, it's building a short-term predictive memory model of the entire traffic scenario over the last several seconds.
So instead of just registering the speed of the car next to it, the system is calculating the intent of that driver based on their subtle steering inputs and recent deceleration patterns.
That's the perfect way to put it. It's moving from perception to anticipation.
A huge difference.
A huge difference. This enhanced architecture lets the system calculate the trajectory and the perceived intent of other road agents, pedestrians, cyclists, emerging vehicles, with far greater fidelity. And this capability allows the vehicle to exhibit behavior that is both safer and feels smoother because its prediction window has expanded way beyond the immediate moment.
And what does that expanded prediction translate into for you, the user, in these really complex driving scenarios? The sources list 4 very specific operational improvements.
First and foremost is improved decision-making in complex traffic scenarios. Think about the unprotected left turn, the ability to assess risk, predict the speed of oncoming traffic, and identify the safest, most efficient gap to make that turn.
Right.
The car needs to manage ambiguity, and these enhanced networks provide a much more robust basis for that kind of probabilistic decision-making.
Which leads to less of that hesitant, jerky behavior that makes passengers uncomfortable and, frankly, distrustful of the system.
Exactly. What's the second promise?
The second is better navigation in highly varied urban environments. Urban driving throws constant curveballs at you. Double parked delivery vans, sudden jaywalkers, temporary road blockages, conflicting signs.
The system needs world-class perception for that. The enhanced networks improve what we call feature extraction, the ability to filter out all that background noise and focus instantly on safety-critical elements, like a partially obscured stop sign or a cyclist moving into your blind spot.
And accurate obstacle detection. That's the third point, and is absolutely non-negotiable for safety.
Absolutely. The improvement here is in identifying and classifying novel or subtle obstacles. It's not just seeing a large car. It's distinguishing between a big bag of trash and a piece of metal debris that could shred a tire. This accuracy, paired with the predictive modeling, drastically reduces the time the system needs to react.
It expands the safety margin.
Hugely. And the final operational improvement mentioned, smoother lane transitions, sounds minor, but it's so crucial for user comfort.
It's all about trust, isn't it?
It is entirely about user experience and trust. Abrupt or delayed lane changes signal a system that is struggling or reacting late. Smooth, decisive, early transitions indicate a system that is navigating with confidence because it has already analyzed the future state of the road ahead of time. It moves the system closer to feeling like a skilled, proactive human driver, not a reactive robot.
It's fascinating that Tesla is focusing so intensely on the tech, while also prioritizing the user experience, the UX. How is AI integration enhancing that side of things?
They're specifically focusing on intuitive voice commands and personalized settings. Intuitive voice commands mean less distraction for the driver. You shouldn't need rigid syntax.
Right.
The AI uses natural language processing to interpret requests like, hey, it's getting a little warm in here, and translates that into cabin temperature adjustments. It understands context.
And personalized settings.
Yeah.
That suggests the AI is actually learning the driver's unique preferences for how they like to drive.
Exactly. If the primary user prefers faster acceleration, or if they're habitually more cautious when merging, the AI adapts its internal parameters to match that preference. It can learn preferred routes that might prioritize scenic roads over speed or avoid complicated intersections. It's all about making the autonomous system feel truly bespoke and comfortable, not some one-size-fits-all algorithm.
This update is clearly about making autonomous driving safer and more reliable. But just as importantly, making it trustworthy and pleasant. It feels like a really tangible step toward making autonomous vehicles a viable reality for everyday consumers.
It's a classic example of incremental perfection leading to a foundational shift. You have to nail the details to win the public over.
Let's transition from the vehicle to the human body, a completely different application field, but one with perhaps the highest potential impact. We're talking about AI revolutionizing preventative medicine and patient care.
This initiative is truly monumental. The source material details this massive collaborative effort launched by a consortium of leading tech companies and major medical institutions.
That blend is key, right?
It's the only way. This blending of deep tech expertise, the kind that builds GPT-4 Vision and FSD with decades of clinical knowledge and large-scale medical data, is the only way you can achieve these kinds of breakthroughs.
And the goal is incredibly ambitious, developing AI tools for early disease detection. What kind of success has this collaboration already had?
They've hit a home run right out of the gate. The sources confirm that a prototype from this consortium has already yielded remarkable accuracy in identifying the very early signs of specific debilitating conditions.
Let's highlight those conditions, because they are notoriously difficult to diagnose in their initial stages, which is when intervention is most effective.
The source specifically points out the ability to identify early signs of two major neurodegenerative conditions, Alzheimer's and Parkinson's.
Wow.
And catching these diseases before significant irreversible neurological damage occurs it's the holy grail of modern neuroscience. Early intervention can dramatically improve long-term outcomes, sometimes slowing progression by years.
That is genuinely revolutionary. The ability to intervene before major symptoms show up completely shifts the paradigm of treatment. But the how is the most fascinating part. How are these AI tools doing this non-invasively?
Yeah.
They aren't relying on complex, expensive scans or intrusive procedures, are they?
No, and that's the genius of the approach. It lies in leveraging ubiquitous technology and subtle, measurable indicators. The AI tools work by analyzing data streams that are easy to collect, things like speech patterns and facial movements.
Okay.
And the source also mentions other subtle indicators, which likely includes things like gait analysis or even thermal signatures.
Let's delve into the speech patterns specifically.
Mhm.
How can speech analysis provide a reliable signal for something like Alzheimer's or Parkinson's?
Okay, so in Parkinson's, changes in the voice are a well-documented but very subtle early marker. The AI is trained to detect micro-variations in what we call prosody, the rhythm and inflection of speech. This often shows up as hypophonia, a softening of the voice, or a monotonous, reduced range of pitch.
Something a human ear might just miss as someone being tired.
Exactly. For the AI, using sophisticated time series analysis and acoustic feature extraction, these subtle shifts correlate powerfully with early motor control degradation.
And for Alzheimer's, which affects cognition more directly.
For Alzheimer's, the AI focuses more on the semantic and syntactic structure of speech. It analyzes things like an increasing reliance on generic phrases, frequent pauses to find a word, repetition, and a subtle degradation in narrative coherence.
The way stories are told.
Precisely. The AI uses advanced recurrent neural networks, RNNs, to track these patterns over time in conversation and build a risk model based on deviations from an individual's own established baseline.
In facial movements, I'm guessing the AI is using standard webcams or smartphone cameras to monitor microexpressions.
That's exactly right. For Parkinson's, the AI tracks micro movements for signs of subtle tremors or reduced spontaneous facial expression, what's often called masking. The AI isn't fooled by context. It's looking at baseline muscle movement and tracking minute changes in frequency and amplitude that are just invisible to the naked human eye.
So by fusing these non-invasive data streams, speech, micromovement, maybe eye tracking, the AI constructs this highly accurate composite risk profile.
And that profile is actionable for a physician. The non-invasive nature is a logistical game changer. It means monitoring can be continuous, cheap, and easily deployed through consumer-grade devices, moving diagnosis out of specialized clinics and into the home.
That overcomes the two biggest barriers to early diagnosis, cost and access.
That's the key advantage. You don't need an expensive, specialized medical scan like an MRI or a PET-FML until the AI flags a high-risk indicator. This initiative, therefore, carries a dual promise.
Beyond the individual health outcome, what is the systemic impact?
The dual impact is critical. First, you get the profound improvement in individual health outcomes. Earlier diagnosis means earlier intervention, better disease management, slower progression.
Right.
The second impact, which is often overlooked, is the massive reduction of the overall burden on global healthcare systems.
That burden reduction is huge. I mean, treating advanced, late-stage neurodegenerative disease is astronomically expensive and incredibly resource-intensive.
And by transforming medicine from this reactionary late-stage treatment model to true preventative pre-symptomatic care, the costs, both economic and human, dramatically decrease. This consortium initiative isn't just a technical win, it's a model for systemic improvement. It's a testament to AI's power.
It shows that its greatest value might be providing doctors with these continuous, non-invasive, superhuman tools for detection.
I think so.
We've covered foundational research, ethical oversight, high-stakes industrial deployment in FSD, and a critical sector transformation in healthcare. Now, for our final piece of the puzzle, let's turn to the subjective, abstract world of culture and the evolving role of AI in the arts.
This concluding segment is fascinating because it proves AI's influence isn't just limited to solving logical, defined problems. It's now deeply engaging with ambiguity, with subjective experience, and with cultural commentary. The source gives an example of a digital artist who used AI to create a really striking series of paintings.
It's important to stress this was explicitly a human-machine collaboration, right?
Yeah.
Not an AI just operating in a vacuum.
Absolutely. The artist's genius lay in the curation of the source material. They fed the AI this blend of profound historical depth and contemporary cultural themes. So they gave it a vast library of art history, maybe from the Renaissance to abstract expressionism, and then juxtaposed that with contemporary data about modern social anxieties, climate change, geopolitical shifts.
So the human artist is defining the conceptual collision point. The AI is acting as an incredibly sophisticated, highly informed synthesizer, drawing connections that a human might take a lifetime to even process.
That's a perfect way to describe it. The human is the DJ, setting the theme, choosing the tracks, controlling the mixing board. The AI is the ultra-fast, ultra-knowledgeable machine that executes the technical fusion. And this blend ensures the output isn't a pure imitation of the past, nor is it just a random digital collage.
What was the resulting output? What did the art actually look like?
The works are described as surreal and thought-provoking, and that surreal quality likely comes directly from the unexpected, often jarring connections the AI draws between those ancient artistic inputs and the anxieties of the contemporary cultural data. They weren't passive reproductions, they were new syntheses that reflected both the deep historical patterns and the current cultural moment.
And this collaboration inevitably sparked a major conversation that really touches on some of the most foundational questions we have about creativity.
It forces us to redefine originality. The conversation sparked by this work challenges our whole perception of creativity itself.
Yeah.
I mean, if the AI is performing the technical synthesis, the brushwork, the color, the composition, where does the human originality truly lie?
Is it just in the prompt? The curation of the data? The final selection of the works?
Exactly. It forces us to define the evolving role of AI as a creative partner. The AI is not just a tool like a paintbrush or a camera. It is a co-creator that brings its own distinct algorithmic, if non-sentient sensibility to the canvas.
The human artist's role shifts from being a master technician who executes the work to a master curator, a concept architect, and an interpreter of the machine's output.
It validates the idea that true artistic breakthroughs often come from forcing constraints and collisions. In this case, the collision between structured human intent and highly generative machine synthesis is proving to be incredibly fertile ground. It pushes the boundary of what we accept as authored or original and asks us if the value lies in the final product or the conceptual process.
It's a beautiful conclusion to our deep dive. It's a reminder that this technology isn't just designed to solve logistical problems or diagnose diseases. It also has the power to inspire, to provoke, and to fundamentally challenge how we see our world and ourselves.
It proves AI is fully embedded in our cultural fabric. That synthesis is the perfect point to tie everything together. If we reflect across these 5 segments, the sheer spectrum of AI influence today is staggering, and it's happening at light speed. We started in the theoretical research lab with GPT-4 Vision.
Which established a new cognitive foundation for multimodal interaction.
We then saw that massive power immediately checked by the necessary frameworks discussed at the Global AI Ethics Forum, where the mandates for accountability and equitable access were pushed right to the forefront.
Then we observed that power deployed in major industry with Tesla's enhanced FSD networks, making tangible, sophisticated improvements to complex, high-stakes safety systems in our cars.
And almost simultaneously, we detailed how AI is revolutionizing the most sensitive sector of all healthcare, promising pre-symptomatic, non-invasive detection for devastating conditions like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's.
And finally, we wrapped up with the deeply human pursuit of culture and art, where AI is acting as this creative provocateur, defining a new frontier for human-machine collaborative authorship.
So what does this all mean?
That's the question.
It means that AI continues its relentless push across every boundary, not just technical boundaries, but conceptual ones. Every single breakthrough we've discussed today, whether it's multimodal capability or early disease detection, demands both our highest technical attention and our most immediate ethical and societal reflection.
The speed of innovation requires a similarly rapid pace of adaptation from society, from industry, and especially from regulators.
The question is perpetual. Just because we can achieve something this profound, should we? And how do we ensure its benefit is shared broadly and safely?
That leaves us with a truly provocative thought to mull over as we close. We've seen AI achieve immense success in diagnosing devastating human diseases, which requires peak logical problem-solving and highly complex pattern recognition. And we've juxtaposed that with AI's ability to generate truly surreal, thought-provoking art, a function that taps into subjective creativity, emotion, and cultural understanding.
So if AI is demonstrating peak performance in both the domain of rigorous logical problem solving and the domain of purely subjective creativity, what does this radical integration imply for our future definitions of human skill and unique expertise? Where does the line shift?
That's the question we're left with. Are we heading toward a future where human value lies not in mastering the execution of technical or artistic tasks, but purely in defining the input and interpreting the output of our machine partners? It changes the very definition of mastery. Something to think about as you navigate the world that AI is constantly helping to build.
The landscape is certainly changing beneath our feet. Stay vigilant.
Thank you for tuning in to this deep dive into the 2025 AI landscape. We hope these insights help you stay curious and engaged with the ever-evolving world of artificial intelligence. We'll catch you next time for the next deep dive.